Hello and welcome to Inside the Majors podcast. Today it's just me. I'm known by many names. I'm known by some as the Roo, Animal. My wife is the Mistake. But I'll answer to almost anything. But yeah, my name's Garren Batten, and yeah, it's just me with you today, running through a few things going on in the world of the Majors series. So today I'm going to start off by answering some listener questions that have come in via the Discord. And then we're going to hear from our current championship leader in the Atlantic Pro Division. And I'll be also sharing an update on the plans for the MEC, which was announced in the last podcast if you were listening to that one, and also a special event at the end of the season. So make sure to stay tuned all the way to the end if you can manage to get through just me. But before we head into that, I'd like to quickly congratulate the Majors 24 top split winners from last week, or maybe a bit more than a week ago if you're listening to this later on. In GTP, it was the MSR Esports with Butt Kicker who came out on top. So well done, guys. A special mention in that class to the pole sitters BS Plus competition, who led for almost the entire first half of the race until, well, they weren't and they were out. In LMP2, it was P1Docs.com who were victorious, so well done to them. And in GT3, it was Shira Esport Blue that came through a really hard-fought race that was close amongst that field all the way to the end. So, yeah, they were at the head come the checkered flag. So, well done to those teams and to everyone that competed in the Majors 24. I hope you enjoyed it. And whilst only some may have got, the awesome coins now headed for them in the mail all over the world, I'm sure you all, just like me, have at least a story to tell, if not a coin coming. For me, my race story was we were hit before we even got to the start line. And after those repairs, we were 3 laps down. So, yeah, that was a great start. And we spent the next 23 hours and 52 minutes doing the best we could. We briefly got ourselves back on the lead lap, but ultimately came home to finish 4th. So, yeah, no coin coming our way, but yeah, still great time had with me and the other guys on the team. And like I said, we've got a story to tell, which is all we can hope for. So, I would also like to say a special thanks to the volunteers in race control for the 24-hour, who got through countless incident reviews, and I'm sure could also share some interesting stories about some of the things that they saw. But thank you to everyone that was involved in that. Whilst the individual teams and drivers may not always have agreed with the decisions, they're doing the best that they could, and they did an amazing job in many, many circumstances dealing with everything that got thrown their way. So, yeah, thank you to everyone that volunteered their time and services to make that happen. The event couldn't go ahead without you. So, yeah, really, really appreciate what you've done. So now we're going to get on to some listener questions that came in on the Discord channel. First one from Stu Elder, which was, what's the car and track details for the Dirt Round? So the Dirt Round is the next major series league round in July, or end of July. Obviously after the summer series is finished, which is going on at the moment. The track will be Eldora, and the cars will be the late model Pro. I think that's right, because I believe when you buy that car, you get all 3 versions of it, which is the Limited, the Pro, and the Super version, which I think they're all the same. They've just got different sized engines or modified engines in them. So, yeah, make sure that if you're practicing outside of the league sessions, that you're using the right one of those 3 cars when you're practicing. But I'm pretty sure it's the Pro version. If I've got that wrong, I will slap myself around and clarify that in the next podcast. Next question was from Stuart Rice, which was, next time for Majors 24, are you planning on potentially trying to have more than 4 splits broadcast, or would this be too much of a hassle given the amount of work that goes into it? Look, thanks for the question, Stuart. To be honest, that'll probably depend on the number of entries that we get. The expanded interest this year, obviously being 4 splits more than it was last year. If that continued into 2025, where we're seeing more than 13 splits, then things like additional splits that are broadcast or additional splits that have safety cars included in them, whilst they would obviously come at an additional cost to the series and require a little bit more investment, that sort of things, it's something that we would consider. But I'm going to be 100% honest, it would largely depend on the amount of admin and volunteer resources that we could get. The major series cannot go on without the volunteers, as I said before. But it's really a case of staffing to be able to expand those additional tack-ons or additional features of an event into more splits. So yeah, look, it's something that we'll just have to see, sort of what the entries are for next year. One of the things that we have thought about, and this is one of Mike's, it's on Mike's to-do list, and things that he wants to do is he calls it to do a radio La Majors. Which is essentially to have an ongoing broadcast of people and interviews and things that is looking at what's going on in all of the splits. So even if it's not potentially showing a single split for a long time, or it might be audio only rather than video, it's something that people could tune into during the race themselves and hear what's going on both in their split and in other splits as well. So that's something that we might consider as well. But again, that all comes down to a resourcing and volunteer thing. Whilst it's the sort of thing that Mike would love to do, Mike's got 37 jobs that he's doing during that race itself already, even with the number of splits that we had this time. So yeah, we'll just have to see how all of that goes. But thanks for the suggestion or the question. It is something that is not off the table and would something we'd look at. Question from Jason for next year's M24. Will questions that have already been answered in the FAQ and the rules be harshly penalised? I believe they should. Whilst I take your point, Jason, and thank you for the help that you provided in assisting the admins with answering your questions in the Discord, because you did jump in there and point people in the direction of places they could potentially educate themselves on things that they were asking. It's probably not something that we would want to do. Perhaps because we'd be penalising too great a proportion of the grid if this year was anything to go by. I somewhat jest. But look, the number of questions that came in that obviously were able to be answered by things like the FAQ, the rules, or the announcements channels, it has been noted. And obviously we need to try and do some different things in a different way so that people feel like they've got easier access to resources to begin with, rather than just jumping straight on the Discord and asking questions straight away. How we go about doing that, we will consider. But yes, obviously the volume of questions that did come in, particularly in the last 24 hours before the race started, was getting pretty excessive. And there was a lot of repetition in the questions that were asked. We'll try and do the best that we can to do a better job from the admin side, with people getting information that they need and questions answered before they have to ask them. So yeah, we'll see what we can do in that regard. But yeah, penalising them, whilst I take your point, that probably isn't something that we would do. Jared Murphy asked, how hard would it be to set up practice sessions by splits once they're established, so that you're practicing with people of similar pace? Jared, thanks for the suggestion, and probably everything that I'm about to say, please don't take this as me being critical of the question, because the idea itself is really sound in principle. And whilst in theory would be really great, it's perhaps not as practical because of a few different reasons. The first one is that usually for the Majors 24, there's only about a 24 to 36 hour period between when the splits get determined and when the race actually occurs. That was a bit different this year because it fell within week 13, and we knew that there was going to be the build of iRacing, or the change in build of iRacing. So we had to get all the pre-queue done stuff much earlier than usual, so that we could have that deadline. And then obviously there was practice sessions that then fit in between when the pre-qualifying deadline ended and the splits were determined to when the race actually occurred. So there's probably not a huge space of time for us to be able to set that sort of stuff up under a normal Majors 24 scenario. Also, the pace within a single car can vary by several seconds per lap. so even limiting a session to cars within a single split, not necessarily the case where you'd be able to get a chance to drive with people of the same speed. If you're in at the same time as a complete gun driver that's in a car with some other people that maybe aren't quite so gun, then yeah, you might be racing or might be running on track with somebody that's significantly faster or slower than you, depending on what the case is. Also, the time zones would mean that we would essentially have to run, well, in this year's case, 13 concurrent splits for that entire period of time after the splits were determined, until when we cut it off, which from a management perspective would be really, really tough. Obviously, we'd have to then limit who has access to it and password protect it and da 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 da. So it would be quite difficult. And without it being set up as a race, then the amount of time that you would spend with cars around you would be pretty limited. So, I mean, look, that's a lot of reasons why I've said no, that's probably not going to happen. But like I just said, I think the idea in itself is really, really good in principle. So, I mean, look, if enough teams within a split after the point where it was determined could arrange, a hosted session like that to run themselves, that would be awesome, and we'd be totally, behind it. But it's probably not something that we would, as a matter of course, structure from the series side. But thanks for the question and for the idea. Appreciate it. Nick McLaughlin asked a question regarding the MEC. Would this potentially be a solo endurance series? He'd love to get involved in that. Now, Nick, I know after you posed that question, you then noted that you'd read a bit more about it or listened more about it and knew that it was a team series. However, there's a couple of interesting points there, which is why I still wanted to discuss this. And that's, we do intend for at least one, maybe more, of the regular major series races to align with an MEC event next year. Obviously, it wouldn't be part of it, but to obviously be conducted in the same cars at the same track, very close to the MEC round that is there. And obviously, that would be a single driver event, and it's likely that those would not be a sprint event. So, in a sense, might be a single driver endurance type event, which might help scratch that itch that you've got. But I mean, look, in terms of integrating something like that into the MEC, which is a team series for year one, certainly we probably wouldn't want to bring that in. But if we got a strong base of teams for MEC and season 2 and beyond, it was something that there seemed to be greater interest in, or a big enough base of people. Potentially adding an additional class for single drivers, I suppose, is something that we could consider. I mean, a 6 or 8 hour race would be pretty tough for somebody on their own. But hey, if there's people that are nuts enough, and obviously you see them in some of the iRacing special events, people trying to do 24-hour races on their own or that sort of stuff. So look, if there's a desire and a big enough group of people that are looking to do that sort of thing, maybe in future seasons, that's something that we could look at maybe bringing in as well. So let's see how it develops. And as far as MEC is concerned, I'll give a bit more detail on where things stand and the planning for that in a little while. But before we crack on with that MEC update, earlier in the week, I had a chat to our current Major Series Championship leader in the Atlantic Pro Division, Jeff Schmeier. Jeff is part of the well-known Major Series team Dog Bear, and is a long-time Major Series racer. He's competed in 79 league races to date, having debuted with us in 2018. So Jeff's first and to date only win came in the Daytona 500 last year, but 2024 has seen him show impressive consistency and speed with top 10 finishes in all 5 rounds so far, which has seen him sitting at the top of the standings at the moment. So I began our chat by asking Jeff what he thought his highlight of 2024 had been so far.
It's probably going to have to be the Intimidator getting another podium. I won the thing last year, and I was hoping that I can get a back-to-back wins, but still managed to get a podium though, which is really cool.
The win last year to date, the only win you've had in the Major Series. Did it feel like it had been a long time coming?
Yeah, a little bit. I was always on the Pacific side for most of my majors career, so I was always chasing, the challengers of the world. So, yeah, it was pretty cool coming over here and not having to deal with some of the faster guys on that side. But yeah, it was really cool.
You've been racing with the major series since 2018, and can you remember all the way back then what led you to joining the major series?
Oh yeah, I just got a ping from the forums or something like that where and uh and I thought it was really cool that we do all kinds of disciplines, and I'm a fan of all kinds of motorsports. So it was, and on when I was just doing officials on iRacing, I was kind of doing a little bit of everything. So to find a series that did that all encompassing in one season over the course of a year was really cool. So
And you raced for Dog Bear. Did were you part of that team before you joined the majors, or that's something that's evolved since you became part of it?
no, I joined them. So in 2018, I raced independently. I actually won 3 sportsman races in 2018. So this technically I have 4 wins. But uh, but yeah, I joined Dog Bear the next year. I went up into the free agents and kind of was seeing if people were looking for a team, and yeah, Dog Bear snatched me up, and I've been with them ever since. I love the guys.
They certainly do some pretty cool liveries as well. Yeah, you never miss a Dog Bear car on the track. And sorry for shortchanging you as well. I only looked at your pro record, not your sportsman record, so that's on me.
Oh,
Um,
that's no problem.
uh, did you race the majors 24 this year?
Yeah, we did.
Okay, so everyone that takes part in that race has a story. So yeah, good, bad, or otherwise, yeah, give us yours.
Well, it wasn't. Well, we didn't do that great. We were down in the split in like split 10, um, and we had a couple of our guys disconnect, and then um, we had a couple of incidents with other cars. So we made it to the end, but yeah, could have definitely had a better had a better time at the majors 24.
Do you consider yourself more an oval guy or a road guy? So what's your go to style of racing and car on the iRacing service?
I like doing both pretty evenly. I would say I'm better on the ovals. My stats would probably show that I'm better at the ovals. Um, but I've gotten a lot better over, especially the majors has definitely helped me get a lot better on the road side, getting a lot more consistent, and a lot better at not making mistakes, which I think has definitely helped with with where I am in the standings.
So you think rather than just outright pace, especially because a lot of the majors races are quite long. Yeah, you think that's what's helped sort of boost you up to the top of the standings there at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely go into these races not really thinking that I can win the race, even though it'd be awesome if I did win the race. But no, it's always about getting a top tens, which I've succeeded in that this year, and hopefully getting some podiums and some top fives. But yeah, I'm always going into the races, thinking just trying to get to the end, trying to survive.
Um, and obviously, having been part of major series for many years, what's the best thing about the majors for you? And it doesn't necessarily have to be about on track or whatever else. But yeah, what's the thing you enjoy most about being part of the major series world?
It's the fun I've had with my team. I've joined other series that my team participates in, so I've had a lot of fun with them, just hanging out. And then and like I said before, it's just fun to getting to try all these different cars, all these different tracks. Um, and yeah, that's what I think what I like the most about it.
And if you had Mike's magic wand for a day or a week, and it's a pretty powerful wand, What would you like to see done differently in the major series?
Um, well, first I'd like to see all of my stats show up on this on the results page, like the 4 wins I had before, because I see that everybody, all the stats get um, all the stats get updated now. But we haven't done that in years past. I don't know if that's even possible with with how far back the majors goes, but I think that'd
Well,
be the only thing really.
I'm gonna have to put my hand up there and just go. That's on my to-do list. So yeah,
Okay,
we can't point the finger at Mike. That one's on me.
okay.
So yeah, one day when life gets out of the way, yeah, that's on my thing to do. So yeah.
Oh yeah, no rush, no rush.
Outside of sim racing, and what form of racing do you enjoy? Sort of watching or going to, or yeah.
Well, I actually do a bit of karting. I started doing that about 15 or so years ago, and then um, the guys that I used to run a league with, they actually started doing endurance karting. So about a couple times a year, I do some endurance karting. But then but I joined major, or I joined iRacing like in 2015 or so. So so I didn't do much sim racing uh since the Papyrus games. But then I joined iRacing about 10 years later, and it's been a lot of fun since.
Wow, the Papyrus games. I'm Paul Page from Papyrus. Yeah, well, that takes me back. It's amazing how advanced we all thought that those things were back in the day. And
Oh, yeah, definitely.
for the younger people listening, you'll have to look it up. Before we end, let me just ask. Obviously, heading the Atlantic Division at the moment. Do you think coming into the second half of the season that you can stay there? There's a pretty handy group of Scandinavians chasing the top of the standings there as well. But yeah, you're starting to see there's a path to winning this thing.
Oh yeah, definitely. The Scandinavian guys scare me because they've definitely had better pace than me this year, and I just gotten lucky. Just gotten lucky staying out of trouble, and so, but yeah, I'm definitely feeling pretty confident, especially with the next couple of races. Because I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good at dirt, and I'm pretty good at short tracks too. So the next 2 races, I'm pretty confident in. The only one that I'm really nervous about is the very last one, the F1 race. So I'm gonna
Particularly
have to
if there's some rain involved. Yeah, that one's got me fairly worried as well. But yeah,
yeah.
it could be interesting. Thanks for spending a bit of time with us today. It's just you're the first one off the rank, if you like, in terms of interviews on inside the majors. So thank you for coming on and doing this. And yeah, good luck for the rest of the season. And yeah, we'll be watching.
Yeah, of course. Thank you very much for having me.
So that's what I hope will be the first in a series of driver interviews on Inside the Majors this season. So if anyone knows of a teammate or a rival or anybody else, some sort of character in the series you think it'd be great to hear from, drop me a message, let me know. And yeah, we'll see if we can get some regular interviews going as part of the series. Okay, so now on to the update regarding the MEC. In case anyone didn't listen to the last podcast, where we gave the initial outline of the series, the MEC is to essentially be an expansion of the Majors series, of the Majors 24 into a WEC style team sports car endurance series. The series will have 5 rounds, with essentially a race to be held in the first half of each month from January to May 2025. We do have some tentative dates that we're looking at, but I'm not going to share them at those points, simply because they can and will move pending iRacing special event scheduling and the major series races as well. But that's a bit of a rough outline as to how things will roughly work. The races will be held on a Saturday with probably varying start times, so that it's not the same countries that or drivers from the same countries that always have to compete at stupid o'clock. The first round will be 6 hours. Then there'll be 3 4-hour races, and the final or the finale will be an 8-hour race. We also have a tentative circuit schedule that we're looking at, but that may also change pending where special events are or league events are to be held. As we said last week, there'll be live stewarding, safety cars in one form or another, probably following the same format as the Majors 24 safety cars, and also broadcast of at least top split. It will be things like free entry to Majors 24 with a guaranteed broadcast split as one of the prizes on offer or available for league winners, as well as series coins for race winners, and also series podium getters, as well as potentially some other goodies from some series partners. More on that as we get closer to the date. Classes to be used will be GTP and GT3 as per the WEC users. And also one of the things that has had a bit more clarity around it, which we alluded to last time, but can give a bit more detail on now, is the divisions that will be offered. So for the GTP cars, there will be two divisions that teams can enter: the Elite division and what we're calling the Driver division. Now, Elite will be unrestricted in terms of driver lineups. So bring Max Verstappen, Lando Norris, and Dale Earnhardt Jr. if you want. No dramas. And if anybody can do that, please do. But yeah, there'll be no limitation on the level or ability of the drivers in the elite class. We expect that to be the premier class, driving at the front and competing for the overall wins at basically every round. The driver division will have limitations on the drivers that can make up a car's lineup. Now, I'll try and explain how this will work out. Every driver that is registered for the series will be given a rank, the same as the real world: platinum, gold, silver, bronze. Each of these ranks will have a score associated with them, and the total score of a car's driver lineup will need to fit within the limit of the score for that car division. Obviously, Elite has no cap, and then the driver division will have a maximum score that you can add up to. And that score will depend on whether you have 2, 3, or 4 drivers. And obviously, it will impact who you can select to drive within that car. And for the driver division, at least one of those drivers will, in all cases, have to be a silver or bronze rated driver. So essentially, the driver division, it's kind of similar to the restrictions that's imposed on the LMP2 class at Le Mans and what used to be the LMP2 class in the WEC. Obviously, we're not using a different car to GTP like they do at Le Mans, but the principle's there in that, there is some small driver limitation in terms of having to have that one silver or bronze driver at least in your driver lineup or the driver division within that class. So hopefully that all makes sense. And when it comes to the GT3 class, we're again going to be offering 2 divisions. However, they will be the driver division, so the same rules apply of what I've just noted for the driver division in GTP. But then there'll also be what we're calling the sports division. Now, the sports division will have even greater restrictions on the score that the car can have in terms of the drivers that are included in it. And it will also exclude platinum drivers altogether. So, again, in trying to mirror the MEC on the WEC, the GT class or the second division, the sports class or sports division of the GT3 cars is much more aimed at the pro-am level. So you won't be able to run, for instance, in a 4-car team, 3 gold drivers and a silver. The score for that would just be too high. So it's aimed at having classes available where any individual driver would be able to run whichever car that they would like, be it prototype or GT3, and any team should be able to put together a driver lineup to fit within one of the divisions. And obviously, if you'd like to, go at that absolute top level, Elite's available. If you are a group that's looking for, a challenge, but maybe you don't quite have the talent of some of the green-coloured aliens that are around, the sports division within the GT class might be the one that's for you. Everyone should have something that they can aim for. Everyone's going to have a chance to be able to compete with people of a similar ability within the division, and there'll be championships or championship standings for each of those divisions for the whole series. So I won't go into the absolute specifics of how the scores work because it's more of a written thing. But hopefully when it gets to time for the rules and regulations to be shared with everybody, it'll kind of make sense. Now I could already hear the questions coming in of how is a driver going to be ranked? How are we going to give them this platinum, gold, silver, bronze rating? Now, from the outset, let me just say no, it will not simply be based on iRating. We know that doesn't work from a league racing perspective. There are people out there that do very little to no officials, and they purely just do league racing. So we know that iRating alone is not a single be all and end all way of classifying driver skill. So we have a number of sources that we can and will use to establish a driver's ranking. These will include major series results and rankings and classes within the league, Majors 24 pre-qualifying and race performances that we have historically. We also have access to some other Majors affiliated series rankings, which we can and will use. Some of these will obviously carry more weight than others, but we have several different ways of trying to establish where does a driver's ability actually fit within the cohort of the Majors series or the Majors League or the Majors 24 or the MEC. So that's what we'll be looking to do if we can, rather than just relying on iRating. Of course, falling back to iRating if we've got a completely new driver to the Majors world, that is something that may have to be used. But it doesn't matter what source we use to establish a driver's rating. It's going to be constantly tracked from the time when the MEC starts, and it may evolve, and a driver's rating may be changed if it looks like we've got it wrong. So sandbagging or tanking an iRating or bringing somebody in that you think you can get them in as a lower ranked driver than they should be won't gain you much, or if it did, it won't for long because we'll be tracking this stuff. And it won't just be purely based on race results. We'll be looking at individual lap times and individual performance. And so we'll be changing things as we need to if we've got that wrong. It's a series that we hope will give you some the same excitement, experience and entertainment that the Majors 24 does, but across several races and hopefully for years into the future. So we're really excited about it. Hopefully everybody listening here is excited about it. It can't come soon enough for me, but obviously we need to spend the time in developing it all properly and getting it up and running. Now, the exciting announcement that I referred to at the beginning of this podcast, and I think it may have been mentioned or alluded to in either the last podcast or Discord, but whatever. Prior to the MEC launching in January, we're going to hold a special Majors team event, an MEC prologue, if you will. It's going to be called Blackout. Now this is going to be really cool. The race is going to be held December 14. It's going to be a 12-hour race, and it'll be held almost exclusively in the dark. So starting at dusk or at night time and running through until either just before or just after dawn. So it's going to be pretty unique in that respect, and it's basically all going to be nighttime running. So yeah, it's going to be pretty cool. The outline of the race, it's going to mirror what we anticipate the MEC will be. So it'll have live admins, safety cars for as many splits as we can manage. And hopefully we'll be having multiple splits for this event. Top split at least will be broadcast. And I know that this will excite a lot of people. There'll also be coins awarded for podium finishes in all splits, just like the Majors 24. They won't be Majors 24 coins. They'll be coins in their own right. So that's going to be really, really exciting and really cool. The track hasn't actually been decided yet. We do have a very short list. But it will be a mainstream popular track that we're all familiar with, not somewhere random like Rockingham Roval or something obscure like that, and a track that can accommodate multi-class racing. So it's not going to be a bit of a clown event. This is going to be a proper endurance race through the night and it's going to be really, really cool. So I think that's a great way to end the podcast, and I'm sure that there'll probably be lots of questions about that particular event. So please feel free to drop those into the Inside the Majors questions channel in Discord. Be sure to get those in on time or for next time on Inside the Majors. And thanks for listening.
Hey, you know that guy who just before the green flag keys up his mic and asks, "Anybody got a setup?" Well, this is him. This is Adam, and hey, Adam needs some help. On the other hand, this guy over here, this is Steve. Steve is a solid racer and he knows his way around the garage. Steve's problem is time. With a job and a family, he can't find enough time to build competitive setups and to race as often as he likes. But as luck would have it, Steve knows a secret. He lets the Majors Garage crew chiefs do the setup work so he can focus on the racing. At majorsgarage.com, Steve can get setups for over 60 cars on the iRacing service. So no matter what series he wants to jump into, he is covered. Anybody really should tell Adam. See you at the garage.